Okay, let's have a look at a classic junket. And I would have thought Nick Lalich, the Labor member for Cabramatta, has some questions to answer. He is the Labor MP for Cabramatta, Nick Lalich. Good old Nick thought he'd travel to Vegas on the taxpayer tab, your tab, to study control problem gambling. Nice try, isn't it? Now, if Mr. Lalich was serious about the trip, I'd understand why he went. Bottom line is Cabramatta has a very large Asian population, a high number of gamblers, so there's a case for going on behalf of the people of Cabramatta. And when he posted a bill of more than 16 grand for this excursion, you might even excuse that, saying, well, he paid full price to stay independently of casino operators in order to get to the truth. But this is what you and I got for 16 grand. His words, after spending time at the Cosmopolitan, quote, they don't play any real role in customers with gambling problems unless the customer approaches them. It is my understanding in America that as a democracy, they feel that if someone wants to gamble their money, it is not up to the casino to police that in any way. Really? Now, Nick, if that's your observation from your study tour, then I reckon you're a first-class dope. And you should face it, this was a rort. You're a porky teller. You went on a holiday with Fairfield councillor Del Bennett. Because all you need to do is go to the Cosmopolitan Casino's website, and there on the front page is a tab on responsible gambling. So you know what we did today? We pressed that tab. And let me quote from the casino. While most of our guests enjoy gambling as a form of entertainment, a small percentage may experience problems. As a responsible leader in the hospitality and gaming industry, the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas is committed to responsible gaming practices by respecting our guests and providing assistance to the guest who may be experiencing problems, conducting staff training that stresses the importance of responsible gaming, promoting responsible gaming or gambling policies, practices and procedures within the gaming industry, promoting the 24-hour problem gamblers hotline, 1-800-522-4700. In other words, there is a clear, proactive approach. Now, it actually gets worse. He decided to take a trip to San Francisco, as you do on behalf of the people of Cabramatta. He decided he better study some crime in San Francisco. So he ran into a police officer, Ed Carew, who told him crime, quote, was fairly well under control. This is Nick's report on his trip in San Francisco. Fairly well under control. Now, the trouble with that is this. There was no analysis as to why crime was somehow under control in San Francisco. No attempt to look at sentencing laws across California. No detail about policing strategies. But worse, Ed's assessment is against all the statistics we have found. Now, Nick's tour was in September 2012. The most recent stats from San Francisco that we could find were published in April of 2012 and compared to the same 4 months the year before. Homicide was up, robbery was up, rape was up, burglary was up, auto theft was up, personal theft was up. In fact, that trend continued when the year's statistics were published. San Francisco saw 248 homicides in 2010, it was 275 in 2011, and in 2012, 310. And Lalich told us that in his discussion with Ed Carew, things seemed to be pretty much under control. In the San Francisco CBD, homicides were up 18% on 2011. In Oakland, a 23% jump on the previous year. But perhaps we should be thankful Nick Lalich at least saw a police officer in San Francisco because he was always going to look at crime in New York. The trouble was, he went to New York, but there was nobody there to talk to him. He says. He said, my office had for 4 weeks, prior to my departure, tried to contact the New York PD. Unfortunately, I had received no reply until after my return from the study tour. Well, let me give you a little bit of a hand, Nick Lalich. After 3 minutes of Googling today, we found a number, 00111 646 610 6700. We rang it at 10 a.m., which is when, you know, your office would be at work, and a very kind police officer not only offered to put us through to the Deputy Commissioner, because the Commissioner was out when we rang, she even gave us an email. Nick, I'm happy to pass it on if you want, but you couldn't find anyone in New York to contact over 4 weeks? But like a bad set of steak knives, wait, there's more. He went to Washington, as you do on behalf of the people of Cabramatta, but apparently was unable to meet a single congressman because of elections. He was told Congress was not in session. Well, this is obviously a conspiracy against you, Nick Lalich. And how do you explain this? I can show people were sitting in Washington when you were there because of a bill called the Continuing Appropriations Resolution. In other words, a bill to secure government money supplies. Now, I've got a message sent by your partner, Dell, saying, I'm off to Washington and other destinations for a well-needed break from work. Now, that was posted on the 19th of September 2012. But the Continuing Appropriations Resolution, on September 13, 2012, it passed the United States House of Reps. And on September 22, 2012, it passed the United States Senate. And on September 28, 2012, President Barack Obama signed the bill. It was a very busy time for Congress. But, of course, Congress wasn't sitting, according to Nick Lalich. So, Nick, politicians were in Washington, another porky. And just on the US elections, they took place on November 6, around 9 weeks later. And I would have thought a photo op with an Australian politician that far out from an election would be a pretty good media opportunity for a congressman. So, Nick, did you really try and do a bit of work in Washington, or were you too busy sightseeing? But let's assume you couldn't meet a Polly. Let's give you the benefit of the doubt there. Well, you say you spoke to the chief Hansard reporter, but he couldn't offer anything regarding policy. Well, Nick, why not meet someone like Andrew Lundquist? He is privately based in Washington, D.C., but for years a senior government policy advisor. In fact, that's what he still does. He facilitates policy meetings between relevant government officials and industry right across the spectrum. Now, Andrew, I don't know from a bar of soap, Andrew Lundquist, but he was the first name to pop up when we were searching Google. There'd be 100 people offering similar services based in the heart of the capital, Washington. He's the Washington, D.C. go-to man, one of probably about 60, for the Nick Laliches of the world. But Nick obviously can't Google. Anyway, so then he flies to London, Nick Lalich, and again says he's frustrated by Parliament being cancelled, so he couldn't meet any parliamentarians in London either. In fact, the sum total of London was him being impressed by the tube railway system, which I could have shown him through a YouTube video. And he had a meeting with, cop this, a fertility expert, as you do on behalf of the people of Cabramatta. A fertility expert. Watch out, the women of Cabramatta, you're about to become more fertile. But again, on the UK Parliament sitting times, they sat until the 18th of September 2012, and they came back on the 15th of October. Now, according to Nick's travel partner, Dell, Mr. Lalich was leaving for the tour on the 19th of September and returning on the 14th of October. How terribly convenient. If it was so important to meet a UK MP, then all he needed to do was to wait a day. Now, Nick Lalich did meet somebody on his world junket tour. He ran into Kim Beazley and had a cuppa, as you do on behalf of the people of Cabramatta. His conclusion? I thank Mr. Beazley and staff for taking time out to meet with me. Nick Lalich, that trip was nothing more than a shocking rort. Admit it, it was a holiday. Your travel partner Dell's given you up, Nick Lalich. Let me read her posts from the 14th of October. Another great holiday done and dusted. The 6th of October. I'm in New York, and it's surprisingly warm and seeing so much. Off tomorrow to spend money shopping. Yippee! The 29th of September. Only one more day in London and Bath. Nice to reacquaint myself with London. Or the 19th of September. Yippee! Off to London, New York, Washington, Vegas, and San Francisco for a well-needed break from work. Barry O'Farrell, perhaps you need to take a closer look at Mr. Lalich's taxpayer-funded holiday. You too, John Robertson. Because if this is all the people of Cabramatta got for more than 16 grand, then something is seriously wrong. And Nick Lalich, you're one of those greedy pigs with your snout firmly in the trough.